My name is Mila Baker, and I never thought I'd be the kind of person to eavesdrop outside a conference room, heart pounding like a drum. But there I was, standing in the polished hallway of Apex Innovation's Austin office, clutching a stack of files as Marcus's voice cut through the glass door like a knife. "You don't get to steal Mila's work again, Lauren. This Horizon pitch is hers, and you know it." My stomach twisted, that familiar knot of anxiety tightening. I'd spent a year pouring my soul into landing Horizon Logistics, and now Lauren Mitchell, our new vice president of sales, was trying to claim it as her own. I'm 34, a business development manager who clawed her way up at Apex, a logistics software company that keeps America's supply chains humming. I grew up in a dusty Texas town, raised by my mom, a school teacher who stretched every dollar to give me a shot at college. Texas State University wasn't Yale, but it was mine, and the diploma hanging in my cubicle reminds me of every late night studying, every sacrifice Mom made. I started at Apex as a junior associate, answering phones and fetching coffee, but I worked my way up through sheer grit. Results, I thought, were supposed to matter more than pedigree. Inside the conference room, Lauren's voice was smooth as silk, unruffled by Marcus's accusation. "I've been guiding the Horizon strategy for months. Mila's just executing my vision." I pushed open the door, my hands trembling but my face steady. Marcus, my teammate and a former Army vet with a perpetually wrinkled tie, shot me a look of relief. Lauren, in her designer blazer that cost more than my rent, barely blinked. "Mila, perfect timing," she said, her smile tight. "I'll need your Horizon notes by end of day to finalize the presentation." I met her gaze, my voice calm despite the fire in my chest. "The presentation's done, Lauren. I built the entire deck around Horizon's supply chain needs customized for their cross-state trucking routes." Her eyes narrowed, but she nodded. "I'll review it. We can't afford mistakes with a $60 million deal on the line." Marcus snorted, and I knew what he was thinking. Lauren hadn't touched a slide, hadn't made a single call to Horizon. That was all me, months of early mornings, late nights, and 4 trips to their Dallas office. But as I left the room, a chill settled over me. Lauren wasn't just taking credit. She was planning something worse. Every mile I drove to Dallas for Horizon Logistics felt like a step toward something bigger. I'd been chasing their $60 million contract for nearly a year, and it wasn't just another deal. It was the kind of win that could redefine my career at Apex Innovations. Horizon needed a logistics platform to streamline their trucking empire, spanning Texas to California, and I'd spent countless nights studying their pain points: inefficient routing, data silos, driver turnover. I built a solution that was like a tailored suit, fitting their needs perfectly, from real-time tracking to predictive analytics. It wasn't glamorous, but it was my masterpiece. I first met Sarah Delgado, Horizon CEO, at a Women in Tech conference in Austin years ago. We bonded over coffee, swapping stories about being underestimated, her as a Latina leading a logistics giant, me as a small-town girl in a tech world obsessed with Ivy League degrees. Our friendship grew naturally, but I never leaned on it to win Horizon's business. That would have felt wrong. Instead, I earned their trust with data, demos, and dogged persistence. For trips to Dallas, each one inching us closer to a handshake. By the final meeting, Sarah was nodding as I walked her team through the proposal, her sharp eyes softening with respect. "Mila, you get us," she'd said. That was worth more than gold. Back at Apex, I kept my head down, polishing the pitch deck in my cubicle, surrounded by photos of my mom and me at my Texas State graduation. Marcus would stop by, tossing me a protein bar when I forgot to eat, muttering about how Lauren was circling like a vulture. He wasn't wrong. Lauren Mitchell, with her Yale MBA and East Coast polish, had a knack for swooping in on accounts I'd nurtured, claiming them as her strategic wins. I ignored it, focusing on Horizon. The contract was set to be signed next week, $60 million over 5 years, Apex's biggest deal ever. I let myself dream of what it could mean, a promotion, maybe enough to help Mom retire comfortably. But then an email from Richard Hayes, our CEO, popped up, summoning me to an executive meeting tomorrow. My stomach dropped. Richard, with his Wharton pedigree, rarely noticed me unless it was to nod at my quarterly numbers. Something about the invite, the formal tone, the lack of context felt like a storm brewing. As I shut my laptop, Marcus leaned over my cubicle. "Lauren's gunning to push you out of the signing. Watch your back." I nodded, my throat tight. I'd fought too hard for Horizon to let it slip away. The executive boardroom at Apex Innovations was a world away from my cubicle. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased Austin's skyline, the air heavy with the scent of leather and ambition. I smoothed my Target blazer, feeling like an outsider among the mahogany table and the suits with Ivy League pins. Richard Hayes, our CEO, sat at the head, his gray eyes unreadable. Lauren Mitchell, poised to his right with a sleek portfolio, looked like she belonged on a magazine cover. 3 other executives, all men with matching Rolexes, filled the room. I was the only one whose degree came from a school you could drive to in under 2 hours. "Mila, thanks for joining us," Richard began, his voice clipped. "Lauren tells me you've made progress with Horizon Logistics." I nodded, pulling out my notes, trying to ignore the sweat prickling my neck. "Yes, we're set to sign next week, $60 million over 5 years. They've verbally committed to the full package." Richard leaned forward, his fingers steepled. Impressive. It'd be Apex's biggest contract yet. Pride flickered in my chest, but Lauren's voice cut through like ice. "We're concerned about Horizon's long-term needs," she said, her smile sharp. "A client this size requires a certain sophistication." My heart sank. I'd seen this play before, Lauren positioning to steal my work, but never with stakes this high. "I've tailored the proposal to their exact specifications," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Their IT team signed off on every detail." Lauren waved a hand. "It's not just technical. It's about relationship management, projecting the right image." Richard's gaze flicked to Lauren, then back to me. "You've done solid work, Mila, but we're shifting toward elite talent for flagship accounts." The words hit like a slap. 6 years at Apex, weekends lost to spreadsheets, and now I was solid, but not elite. "Is there an issue with my performance?" I asked, my voice tight. Richard avoided my eyes. "Not at all. But Lauren's Yale MBA and Fortune 500 experience give her an edge you don't have." The room blurred as the truth sank in. They were sidelining me, days before the biggest win of my career, because my Texas State degree didn't shine like Lauren's. I handed over my Horizon files to Lauren that week, each page feeling like a piece of my soul. By Friday, another email from Richard arrived, this time with HR copied. I knew what was coming, but nothing prepared me for the cold reality of being called redundant in my own story. Friday afternoon, I sat in my apartment in Austin, still in pajamas, staring at a cardboard box with my Texas State diploma nestled inside. The manila folder from HR sat unopened on my coffee table. 3 months severance, a letter of recommendation, and the end of 6 years at Apex Innovations. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah Delgado, heading into the signing with Apex. "Wish you were here. Brunch Sunday to celebrate?" I smiled, typing back, "You got it. Call me after." I didn't tell her I'd been fired. Not yet. Part of me wanted Apex to face the consequences of their arrogance without a heads up. Monday morning, while I sipped coffee and scrolled job listings, my phone lit up with Marcus's name. "Mila, you won't believe this," he said, his voice a mix of shock and glee. Sarah walked into the conference room, looked around, and said, "Where's Mila?" Lauren tried to brush it off, saying you were no longer with the company, but Sarah shut her down hard. She said, "If Mila's not here, we're rethinking this contract." Now, I could picture it. Lauren's polished smile cracking, Richard scrambling to save face in Apex's glass-walled boardroom. What happened next? I asked, my heart racing. Marcus laughed. Chaos. Richard started babbling about team transitions and strategic vision, but Sarah wasn't buying it. She said you were the only reason Horizon trusted Apex, and without you, they're pulling the deal. Lauren's in Richard's office now, freaking out, calling legal to see if they can enforce the verbal agreement. I leaned back, a small, vindictive spark igniting in my chest. They can't, I said. I'd made sure nothing was signed before I left. How'd you know this would happen? Marcus asked. I hesitated, then let him in on the truth. Sarah and I met years ago at a conference. We're friends, not close enough for me to use her, but enough for her to trust me. Apex never asked about my network. They saw Texas State and assumed I had no connections. Marcus whistled. They're idiots. So what now? I stared at my diploma, the weight of the past week lifting slightly. Now, they learn what they lost. As I hung up, another text from Sarah popped up. These people are unbelievable. They fired you? Call me. I knew the real storm was just beginning. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 2 calls from Lauren, 3 from Richard, a text from HR that was almost laughably polite. I let them pile up, each notification a reminder of Apex's panic as their $60 million Horizon deal slipped through their fingers. I sat on my couch, the Austin skyline peeking through my window, and tried to process the past few days. 6 years of loyalty, late nights, and a deal that should have been my legacy, tossed aside because my degree wasn't from Yale. The anger burned, but so did a quiet resolve. I wasn't going back. When I finally answered Richard's 4th call, his voice was strained, the usual corporate polish gone. Mila, we need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding with Horizon. I leaned back, keeping my tone cool. No misunderstanding, Richard. Sarah was clear from the start. I'm the reason they trusted Apex. A long pause followed, and I could almost see him rubbing his temples, his Wharton confidence crumbling. We may have acted too quickly on Friday, he admitted. We'd like you back to oversee the Horizon implementation. I laughed, sharp and unfiltered. You fired me 3 days ago because my degree wasn't elite enough. Now you want me back because you're about to lose $60 million. Richard started to protest, but I cut him off. Don't rewrite history. You made your choice. Another pause, heavier this time. What would it take, Mila? Name your terms, vice president role, equity, whatever you want. The offer dangled, tempting for a fleeting second. I thought of Mom, still working long hours at her school, and how a bigger paycheck could ease her life. But then I remembered Lauren's smug smile, Richard's dismissive gaze, the way they valued pedigree over everything I'd built. Nothing, I said firmly. You showed me what you think of me. No title or money fixes that. Richard's voice cracked with desperation. Sarah's threatening to walk. The board's in an emergency meeting. Please, just come to a meeting. I thought of Sarah, standing up for me when I couldn't. You and Lauren can solve this with your fancy degrees, I said, hanging up. My phone lit up again instantly, Lauren this time, but I ignored it. Then a text from Sarah. They fired you after you landed this deal? I'm done with them. Call me. My heart pounded with a mix of gratitude and possibility. Apex was about to learn a hard lesson. Sarah's voice was fire when I called her back. Mila, what the hell? They fired you after you built that entire Horizon deal? The nerve of these people. I smiled, her outrage warming me despite the ache of the past week. I didn't want to tip them off, I admitted. I figured they'd dig their own grave. Sarah snorted. Oh, they did. I told Richard I'm not signing without you. Their strategic vision spiel was pathetic. I thanked her, my throat tight. Her loyalty meant more than she could know, especially after Apex's betrayal. Then Sarah's tone shifted, sharp and purposeful. Listen, you remember Jim Navarro? Met him at that Austin Tech Mixer a while back. I vaguely recalled a charismatic guy, all energy and big ideas. Yeah, started his own company, right? Exactly, Sarah said. Nexus Solutions, Apex's competitor. Jim's been pitching me for months, and his tech's better, cloud-based, user-friendly. He's looking for a business development director. Someone with logistics, know-how, and real client relationships. Sound familiar? My pulse quickened. You're saying I should jump ship? I'm saying you should talk to him, Sarah clarified. If Nexus's solution checks out, I'd consider partnering with them. And if you're there, I'd feel even better about it. She texted me Jim's contact info, adding, he's expecting your call. 3 hours later, I was sitting across from Jim Navarro in a bustling Austin cafe, his dark eyes bright with the kind of drive I hadn't seen at Apex. Jim, a first-generation Mexican-American who'd built Nexus from nothing, didn't care about my Texas State degree. He cared about results. Tasha says you're the best she's worked with, Jim said, leaning forward. Client-focused, relentless. I need that. Nexus has better tech than Apex, but we need someone to get us in front of big players like Horizon. I nodded, feeling a spark of hope. I've spent years building trust with clients. It's not about flash, it's about solving their problems. We talked shop for an hour, and I liked his vision. Innovative, practical, no elitist nonsense. I want you as our business development director, Jim said. Full control of your strategy, equity, a salary Apex can't touch. You in? I smiled, my first real one since Friday. Send me the offer, Jim. I'm listening. As I left, my phone buzzed, another desperate voicemail from Richard. I deleted it without a second thought. I signed the offer from Nexus Solutions that night, the numbers making my head spin, a salary double my Apex pay, equity, a signing bonus, and the title of Business Development Director. But more than the money, it was the trust Jim Navarro placed in me that sealed the deal. No questions about my Texas State degree, no sideways glances at my small-town roots, just respect for what I'd done and could do. I started the following Monday, diving into a role that felt like it was built for me. Nexus's Austin office was scrappier than Apex's, but the energy was electric, fueled by people who cared about results, not resumes. My first task was prepping for Horizon's meeting. When Tuesday rolled around, I walked into Nexus's conference room, hugged Sarah Delgado like an old friend, then launched into my pitch with a confidence I hadn't felt in years. 2 hours later, we had a $55 million deal framework, slightly less than Apex's offer, but with superior tech and my personal oversight. Sarah signed, shaking my hand with a grin. I knew you'd make this work, Mila. Words spread fast. When news broke that Horizon chose Nexus, other clients started calling, curious about why I jumped ship and what Nexus could offer. Apex, meanwhile, was imploding. Marcus texted me updates. Lauren was fired after the board pinned the Horizon loss on her. Apex's stock tanked 35%, and Richard Hayes resigned amid whispers of a buyout. I didn't gloat, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel good. They'd thrown me out, thinking my lack of an Ivy League degree made me disposable. Now they were paying the price. I never badmouthed Apex to clients. I didn't need to. The story of how they fired me days before their biggest deal and lost it because of their elitism was already making rounds at industry meetups. 3 months in, Nexus's client roster grew, with 2 more Apex accounts jumping to us. Marcus joined my team, fed up with Apex's chaos, and brought his logistics expertise with him. We were building something real, a team that valued grit over glamour. Every late night, every client call, felt like a step toward proving I was more than my degree. But deep down, I kept thinking of Mom, how she'd smile when I told her I'd made it, not just for me, but for her sacrifices, too. 6 months into my role at Nexus Solutions, I barely recognized the woman who'd walked out of Apex Innovations with a cardboard box and a bruised heart. My team at Nexus had grown to 12, a mix of young go-getters and seasoned pros like Marcus, all united by a hunger to deliver for our clients. We'd landed 3 more major accounts, each drawn by Nexus's cutting-edge tech and my reputation for getting results. Austin's tech scene was buzzing about us, and I felt alive, like I was finally in a place that saw me for me. Every morning, I'd pass my Texas State diploma on my office wall, a quiet nod to the scrappy kid from a small town who'd made it here. I thought of Mom often, how she'd worked double shifts to pay for my books, how she'd told me, Mila, you don't need a fancy name on your degree, just a fire in your belly. I'd started sending her extra money, easing her hours at school, and her proud voicemails were worth more than any paycheck. But the weight of Apex's betrayal still lingered, a scar that ached when I let my mind wander. One afternoon, Marcus forwarded me a LinkedIn message from a former Apex colleague. Lauren's gone, and Richard's out. Apex is bleeding talent. You hiring? I smiled, typing back, send me your resume. We're looking for people who deliver, not diplomas. 2 weeks later, we onboard another ex-Apex account manager, her gratitude palpable as she escaped their sinking ship. Nexus wasn't just growing, it was becoming a haven for people like me, overlooked by companies obsessed with prestige. Then came the client conference in Dallas, my first big stage as Nexus's business development director. I stood in front of 200 industry leaders, presenting our vision alongside Jim Navarro. As I spoke, I saw Sarah Delgado in the crowd, nodding with that same respect we'd built years ago. Later, over drinks, she raised a glass. To you, Mila. You didn't just survive Apex, you showed them what they lost. I clinked her glass, my chest tight with gratitude. Not just for the deal, but for the faith she'd shown when I had none. Back in Austin, I lay awake that night, wondering how far this new path could take me. The answer came sooner than I expected. A year after Apex Innovations fired me, Nexus Solutions was no longer the scrappy underdog. We'd grown by 150%, our client list a who's who of logistics giants, all drawn by our tech and my team's relentless focus on their needs. I'd built a crew of 15, including Marcus and 3 other Apex defectors, each chosen for their drive, not their diplomas. Our Austin office hummed with purpose, whiteboards covered in strategies, laughter echoing from late-night brainstorming sessions. It felt like home, a place where my Texas State degree wasn't a footnote but a badge of resilience. One morning, as I wrapped up a quarterly planning meeting, my assistant waved me toward Jim Navarro's office. I found him grinning over financial projections, his usual energy dialed up to 11. Board meeting went well? I asked, settling into a chair. Better than well, Jim said, sliding a folder across his desk. We're set to overtake Apex in market share by next quarter. Your team's the reason. My heart skipped. Apex, the company that had discarded me, was now a shadow of its former self, scrambling for a buyer after 4 straight quarters of losses. Jim tapped the folder. This is for you. Inside was a press release. Mila Baker named Chief Revenue Officer at Nexus Solutions. I blinked, stunned. Jim, this is huge. He leaned forward, his eyes serious. You've earned it, Mila. You brought in clients we couldn't touch, built a team from scratch, and turned us into a real contender. Say yes. I thought of Mom's sacrifices, my years at Apex proving myself over and over, the sting of being called redundant. This wasn't just a promotion, it was proof I belonged. Yes, I said, my voice steady. Absolutely yes. As I left Jim's office, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Apex just announced another restructuring. Richard's out for good. You see this? I searched the news and found it. Apex was floundering, its stock a fraction of its peak, its board desperate for a lifeline. I felt no joy, only a quiet vindication. They'd bet on pedigree and lost. I glanced at my Texas State diploma, now framed in my corner office, and smiled. It wasn't about where I started, it was about where I was going, and who I'd become along the way. 2 years after Apex Innovations tossed me out, I stood in my office at Nexus Solutions, watching Austin's skyline glow under a Texas sunset. My team had just closed another major deal, and the buzz of success filled the air. As Chief Revenue Officer, I'd helped Nexus overtake Apex, whose name now barely registered in industry chatter. Their downfall wasn't my goal, but it was a consequence of their choices, valuing polish over passion, credentials over competence. I'd built something better, surrounded by people like Marcus, who'd followed me from Apex, and new hires who saw Nexus as a place to thrive, not just survive. I often thought of Mom, now retired and tending her garden, her voice beaming through the phone when I told her about my promotion. You did it, Mila, she'd said, tears in her words. You did it for us. That diploma from Texas State, hanging proudly on my wall, wasn't just a degree, it was a symbol of every hurdle I'd cleared, every doubt I'd silenced. I'd proven that success isn't about where you come from, it's about the fire you carry and the people who believe in you, like Sarah, Jim, and Marcus. Sometimes, I'd catch myself wondering about Lauren and Richard, but the sting of their betrayal had faded. They'd underestimated me, and that was their mistake. I didn't need their apologies or their jobs, I'd found my place, my purpose. Nexus wasn't just a company, it was a mission to solve real problems for real people, without the elitism that had nearly broken me. Every client we won, every team member we hired, felt like a step towards something bigger than revenge, a legacy built on trust. To everyone who's followed my story, thank you. You've walked with me through betrayal, heartbreak, and a comeback I never saw coming. If my journey resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and join us. Here, every deal we close, every challenge we face, tells a story of grit, heart, and new beginnings. Keep chasing your own truth, and I'll meet you at the finish line.